There was once an ancient book, a sacred heritage that was read, believed, and revered by the earliest communities of faith. A book that once illuminated the deepest secrets of humanity's origins and the metaphysical world operating behind what the eyes see and the ears hear. Yet somehow it vanished from the official scriptures, as if all of humanity's memory of it had been swept away in a flood of oblivion. That book is called the Book of Enoch. And the truth is this: if you have never heard the full story of Enoch, you do not truly know where you come from. In just a few short lines of the book of Genesis, the Bible mentions Enoch as one who walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. But behind that simple statement lies a lost epic, a story about a man granted the privilege to witness the operations of the heavens, the fall of the angels, the birth of half-divine, half-human beings, the Nephilim, and the divine knowledge that hum. Humanity once possessed and then lost. The Book of Enoch is not merely a text, it is a shattered mirror reflecting the glorious and corrupted past of humankind. A past that, if fully understood, would change the way you view history and yourself forever. But why was such an important document removed? Why did the truths Enoch witnessed have to be sealed away in darkness for over 2 millennia? Could it be that the revelations contained within were too dangerous, not just to the fledgling system of doctrines being established, but also to the forces seeking to control the minds and souls of humanity? Could it be because the book speaks of a world where angels are not always pure beings, where divine knowledge can be turned into deadly weapons, where mankind once stood on the threshold of self-destruction? Today, we will reopen that door. We will step into the forgotten land where ancient truths await to be spoken once again. And perhaps, just perhaps, when this journey ends, you will realize that our true origins and our destiny are far different from everything we have ever been taught. Though the Book of Enoch seemed to have been erased forever from the mainstream of history destiny, arranged in a strange and mysterious way for its pages after thousands of years in exile in the darkness, to once again come into the light. At the end of the 18th century, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce, after a long and arduous journey to Ethiopia, a land cut off from the Western world, made a discovery no one could have anticipated. In ancient monasteries, hidden among the rocky deserts, Ethiopian Orthodox monks had secretly preserved a copy of the Book of Enoch. The yellowed pages, written in the ancient Ge'ez language, remained intact as if sealed by time and fate. Bruce brought 3 precious copies back to Europe, but instead of causing an immediate sensation, they were ignored, treated merely as strange religious relics from an unfamiliar culture. It took nearly half a century before the first English translation emerged, sparking a wave of curiosity in academic circles and silent concern among the guardians of religious orthodoxy. But the surprises did not end there. In 1947, in the dry caves near the Dead Sea, a group of shepherds stumbled upon ancient scrolls, the manuscripts of the Essenes, a sect that lived in seclusion during the final days of ancient Judaism. When archaeologists deciphered the texts, they found not only ancient biblical writings, but also fragments of the Book of Enoch. The presence of the Book of Enoch among the Dead Sea Scrolls sent shockwaves through scholarly communities. It proved that before its removal, the Book of Enoch had been considered an essential part of the spiritual life of early faith communities. It was not an isolated or later forged document. It was once read, revered, and treated as a book containing divine revelations. If the Essenes, a community renowned for their strict loyalty to the law and ritual purity, preserved the Book of Enoch, then we must ask ourselves, did the deepest roots of faith once know trust and rely upon the visions recorded by Enoch? And if so, what was it that led to the decision to erase it? Could it be that in some profound way, the Book of Enoch touched on truths that even mainstream history dared not confront? In the early genealogies of the Bible, where endless lists of names pass by like a silent river, the name Enoch shines with a strange light. Unlike anyone else among the descendants of Adam, Enoch is described in brief but deeply mysterious terms. Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. Genesis 5:24. No death, no grave, no mourning, only a silent vanishing, a miraculous transformation beyond any natural law known to humanity. Enoch, according to ancient tradition, was a man so righteous that God preserved him from the destruction of the world. But his righteousness was not just moral excellence, it was a rare spiritual sensitivity, a profound ability to see through the visible world and perceive the deep movements of the invisible cosmos. In the apocryphal texts, Enoch was not only granted immortality, he was invited to ascend into the heavenly realms to witness forbidden things and to record the sacred secrets concerning the order of creation, the fall of angels, and the ultimate destiny of mankind. In this journey, Enoch was not a passive observer. He became a mediator between heaven and earth, between God and the fallen beings. In some late Jewish traditions, Enoch was even transformed into Metatron, a mighty angel who sits at the right hand of God, the judge of souls. Though this detail is not confirmed in the canonical Bible, it reflects the extraordinary spiritual stature of Enoch in the sacred imagination of later generations. The role of Enoch is unique. He was not a prophet like Isaiah, not a leader like Moses, not a king like David. Enoch was a witness, one chosen not merely to hear the word of God, but to enter the very eternal house of God while still clothed in mortal flesh. This is why, even though Enoch only briefly appears in the Bible, he became an endless source of inspiration for mystical writings, apocryphal visions, and undying dreams of a world where humanity might once again touch eternity. In unlocking the secrets of the Book of Enoch, understanding this man who lived between two worlds is the first key. Because if Enoch saw things that the rest of humanity was never meant to know, then perhaps what he left behind will forever change the way we understand ourselves. The Book of Enoch was not a work written in a single night, nor was it the product of a single generation. It was formed over centuries, persistent, like an underground stream carrying the memories of forgotten ages. Modern scholars believe that much of the Book of Enoch was composed between the 3rd and 1st centuries BCE among Jewish communities deeply influenced by apocalyptic thought. In that context, humanity yearned for a greater explanation of the fall's suffering and the hope of salvation. The ancient oral traditions about Enoch, the man taken by God, became the foundation for a series of grand visions compiled into sections like the Book of the Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, and the Book of Dreams. Initially, the Book of Enoch was widely read among Jewish exiles and small groups separated from the mainstream. The Essenes at Qumran believed to be the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, regarded the Book of Enoch as part of their sacred library. Traces of the book also appear in the writings of early Christian fathers, such as Tertullian, Justin Martyr, and Irenaeus. For the first 3 centuries of the Christian era, the Book of Enoch continued to be respected as a valuable source of revelation. But as the Christian church matured and needed to build a unified theology, the vast differences between the mystical visions in the Book of Enoch and the emerging standardized doctrines became problematic. This culminated at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, a turning point that reshaped the face of Western Christianity. At this council, texts deemed disruptive to doctrinal unity or opening uncontrollable theological dimensions were excluded from the official canon. The Book of Enoch, with its stories of angels marrying women, giants called Nephilim, celestial realms, and apocalyptic visions, was categorized as apocryphal. After the council, the Book of Enoch nearly vanished from the West. Copies faded away. Libraries holding it were forgotten or destroyed. Only in distant Ethiopia did the local Orthodox Church preserve the book as a sacred part of their Ge'ez language Bible. The story of the rise and disappearance of the Book of Enoch is not merely the story of a book. It is the story of an ongoing struggle between memory and power, between sacred truth and the efforts to control that truth. A battle which, even though buried in darkness for thousands of years, could not completely extinguish the smoldering light within those ancient pages. To understand the power of the Book of Enoch, we must step into the strange world. It portrays a world where heaven and earth are not separate, where angels walk among men, and where the gates of the universe open for the chosen one. One of the central themes of the Book of Enoch is the story of the Watcher's angels sent by God to watch over the earth. Initially, they were pure beings reflecting divine light. But as they beheld the beauty of human women, they fell into temptation. Led by the angel Samyaza, the Watchers swore together to break the sacred law, marrying the daughters of men and birthing colossal beings, the Nephilim. The Nephilim were half-divine, half-human entities of enormous size and overwhelming power. Yet they also brought unparalleled destruction to the world. Their greed and violence plunged the earth into bloodshed, defiling the creation that God had originally made in goodness. Through the Nephilim, the Watchers also imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity, from crafting weapons and metallurgy to sorcery, astrology, and other mysteries that mankind was never meant to possess. But the Book of Enoch does not only tell of the fall and chaos. It also records Enoch's miraculous journey through the sacred heavens, guided by the angels. Uriel and Raphael Enoch was taken across 10 heavenly realms, where he witnessed the treasuries of nature, the cosmic machines of the universe, rivers of fire, and the resplendent throne of God. In the third heaven, Enoch saw the Garden of Eden, a radiant place reserved for the righteous, and also the dark abysses where fallen souls were imprisoned. He witnessed angels recording every deed, every breath, every secret thought of humanity. In the seventh heaven, he faced millions of angels singing endless praises to God. And in the 10th heaven, he beheld with his own eyes the glorious throne of the Most High, where the radiance was so intense that no earthly words could ever describe it. From the fall of the Watchers to the rise of the Nephilim to journeys beyond the visible world, the Book of Enoch paints a mystical universe, where light and darkness intertwine, where salvation and judgment walk hand in hand, and where every soul is being invited to choose between two eternal paths. In the writings of the Book of Enoch, the visions are not merely scattered dreams. They are systematic revelations outlining a layered universe where everything operates according to an invisible yet unchanging order. And Enoch, as the chosen one, was permitted to see that structure, something the rest of humanity could only vaguely sense. The book describes 10 heavens, each with its own unique essence and function. In the lowest heaven, Enoch witnesses the treasuries of nature, where snow, rain, wind, and mist are stored and distributed according to the command of God. In the higher heavens, he sees angels governing the stars, the seasons, the flow of time, and the fate of nations. Most strikingly, the third heaven reveals a scene both wondrous and chilling. The Garden of Eden lies beside an abyss, the prison for sinful souls. On one side, eternal life, unending light. On the other, damnation, ceaseless darkness and suffering. In Enoch's vision, heaven and hell are not distant realms, but coexist side by side as two facets of a single reality. In the 7th and 10th heavens, Enoch is brought near to the throne of God. There he sees countless multitudes of angels in attendance, each one participating in the cosmic symphony that sustains the universe. The light emanating from God's throne is so powerful that even the angels must veil their faces, lifting up songs of praise in languages beyond human comprehension. Yet the Book of Enoch does not simply describe the heavens as places. It unveils profound knowledge about how the universe operates, about the invisible orbits controlling the stars, about the angels overseeing the cycles of time, about the delicate balance between light and darkness, good and evil. Every small act on earth echoes in the eternal realms. Every soul leaves an imprint in the heavenly records kept by the angels. Through this journey, Enoch does not merely bring revelations to his own generation. He leaves humanity with a solemn warning that we are not merely physical beings adrift randomly through the cosmos. Each person, each nation, each generation walks within a sacred order, moving toward the final day of judgment. The strange visions of Enoch do not merely open the heavens, they open the ultimate questions of existence. Who are we? Where are we headed? And who is silently recording every beat of our souls among the stars? The disappearance of the Book of Enoch from the official Bible was no accident. It was the result of a long process where theological and political decisions intertwined, aimed at forming a unified, more controllable system of faith, even at the cost of sacrificing the profound depths of ancient revelation. One of the greatest reasons for the removal of the Book of Enoch was its deep incompatibility with the increasingly standardized Christian theology. The book describes a world where angels are not always loyal and pure, where betrayal can arise even among the hosts of light. This stands in stark contrast to the mainstream theological image of angels as perfectly obedient to God. Moreover, the Book of Enoch presents a multi-layered universe with angels managing natural phenomena, time and destiny. Though profound and mystical, such a vision opens up a divine realm too vast and complex, far beyond the neatly contained doctrines that the newly established churches wish to maintain to easily guide their congregations. The greater danger lay in the forbidden knowledge the book referenced. The Book of Enoch describes how the Watchers taught humanity magic weapons, astrology, and secrets about the workings of the cosmos. This sparked a deep, lingering fear that if humans gained access to such knowledge again, they might once more fall into arrogance, stepping beyond the control of the sacred order and the church. Furthermore, the book foretold the coming of the Messiah, not according to expected patterns, but one who would not merely establish an earthly kingdom, but inaugurate a sweeping divine judgment. Such an idea, if widely spread, could challenge the political and ecclesiastical order of the time, which was closely tied to secular power. When the Council of Nicaea convened in 325 AD in its effort to unify faith and canon, the Book of Enoch, along with many other strongly apocalyptic texts, was excluded. Not because it lacked spiritual value, but because it was too dangerous, too expansive, too difficult to control. Thus, one of the most sacred memories of humanity's origins, fall, and hope was pushed into the shadows, leaving behind a void we are still struggling to fill to this day. If the Book of Enoch is not merely an apocryphal text, if what Enoch recorded truly are the oldest fragments of memory about the meeting of heaven and earth, about the fall of divine beings, and about the fragile fate of humankind, then we must ask, was it only Enoch who told this story? Or are there echoes elsewhere from far-off ancient civilizations whispering the same truth? Look eastward to the land of Sumer, the cradle of human civilization. Their ancient cuneiform tablets speak of the Anunnaki beings who descended from the heavens bearing supernatural knowledge and power. These beings, much like the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, intervened in human life, bestowing secrets meant only for the divine. Turning westward to Egypt, we find gods like Thoth, the deity of wisdom and magic, and Osiris, the god of resurrection and judgment. Myths of gods teaching sacred knowledge to humanity and tales of betrayal, death, and the restoration of order after chaos resound as distant echoes of Enoch's narrative. Crossing the Mediterranean to ancient Greece, we encounter the myth of the Titans, giant beings, children of heaven and earth, who rose up against the new gods only to be defeated and imprisoned in the abyss of Tartarus. Again we see strange reflections of the Nephilim and the Watchers of rebellion and judgment. Could it be that all these stories from Sumer to Egypt, from Greece to the lost pages of the Dead Sea Scrolls, are different versions of the same ancient memory? A memory of a time when the boundaries between divinity and humanity were blurred, when knowledge was misused, and when the fall demanded judgment and cleansing. If this is true, then the Book of Enoch is not simply a forbidden book. It is a key to a deeper truth, a truth humanity once knew and has deliberately forgotten. Before darkness covered the earth, before the blood of the Nephilim stained the fields red, there was a moment, the first and fateful moment, when beings created to guard the light chose instead to descend into the abyss of betrayal. According to the revelations in the Book of Enoch, the Watchers were not fallen angels from the beginning. They were sent by God to oversee humanity, to serve as bridges between heaven and earth, to guard the sanctity of a still young world. They carried within themselves light power and divine glory. But when their eyes beheld the beauty of human women, the first fracture appeared. The forbidden lust crept into the hearts of those beings made to live solely for the glory of God. And where desire arises, conspiracy soon follows, led by Samyaza. The Watchers gathered atop Mount Hermon. There they bound themselves by an oath vowing that all would sin together, so that none would bear the punishment alone. It was a sacred vow, but also the first vow of betrayal, breaking the covenant between heaven and earth. From that moment, the Watchers began to take wives from among human women, birthing hybrid offspring, giant beings known as the Nephilim. But their fall did not stop with lust. They also taught humanity forbidden knowledge, the crafting of weapons, the arts of war, astrology, and dark sorcery. They sowed the seeds of chaos on the earth, transforming it from a garden of life into a battlefield of ambition and brutality. In the dim light of stolen knowledge, humanity did not grow in wisdom, but fell into arrogance and self-destruction. And the Watchers, once radiant as the stars, became nothing more than wandering phantoms in the tale of a world spiraling toward doom. The fall of the Watchers was not merely a personal failure. It was the first step in an endless chain of tragedies when freedom was placed into the hands of those too weak to preserve the purity of their souls. From the brilliant light of the heavens to the dark abyss of sin, the journey of the Watchers is a painful mirror for all who dare to forget that power without obedience leads only to ruin. From the fall of the Watchers, a new breed emerged. Beings never intended by God to exist in the original pattern of creation. Hybrids of angel and human blood, born with colossal stature, extraordinary strength and boundless pride. They were called the Nephilim. According to the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim were not only physically enormous, but also bore a terrible arrogance, an insatiable hunger, and an unmatched thirst for power. At first they consumed crops and hunted animals, but when their greed remained unfulfilled, they turned to stealing, murdering, and ultimately cannibalizing humankind. The world quickly became a bloody battlefield. Valleys that once flourished turned into wastelands strewn with corpses. Rivers that once ran pure now flowed with tears and blood. Through their unlawful union, the Nephilim upended the entire order God had painstakingly established from the dawn of creation. But the physical destruction was only the surface. Far deeper, the Nephilim sowed chaos within the souls of mankind. They taught humans to worship strength, to glorify violence, to disdain life and compassion. The knowledge imparted by the Watchers, knowledge that was meant to be light, now became an instrument of corruption, a weapon for endless wars. The emergence of the Nephilim was not merely a biological or social disaster, it was the upheaval of the divine order at its roots. A world where the sacred boundaries between the divine and humanity were shattered, where pride was exalted over humility, where death and chaos became the norm of life. The cries of the earth, the weeping of innocent souls, and the groans of creation itself rose up to the very heavens, and the Most High in his infinite sorrow decreed that the world must be cleansed. But before the great flood would sweep everything away, the existence of the Nephilim remained a gaping wound, a testimony to the devastating consequences when angels and men in pride and lust together defied the boundaries lovingly set by God. As the earth quaked beneath the heavy footsteps of the Nephilim, as the blood of men and beasts mingled in the rivers, as the faint light of compassion flickered and died under the shadows of arrogance and violence, all creation screamed in despair. A world molded by the hand of God had now become a ghost of its former self, and God, who had given life out of infinite love, looked down upon the earth and saw that there was nothing left to save for a small glimmer of righteous souls. To preserve the good that remained and to cleanse the earth from the deep corruption that had seeped into its very fibers, God decided to purify the world with water, the primordial element, both the source of life and the symbol of rebirth through death. According to the Book of Enoch, he commanded the treasuries of the waters above and below to open at once. Relentless rains poured down from the heavens, while from the depths of the earth subterranean fountains burst forth, flooding every mountain, every field, every stronghold of pride. The great flood was not merely a punishment, it was a divine purification. It was the way to wash away all corruption, all tainted knowledge, all forces that had rebelled against the sacred order. In the raging waters, the Nephilim, the offspring of betrayal, were swept away, erased from the face of the earth. But amidst the fury of the flood, there remained a small vessel. Upon it, Noah, the descendant of Enoch, the righteous man, amid a corrupt generation, along with his family and pairs of all living creatures, were preserved like pure seeds for a new beginning. The great flood was the most tragic chapter of judgment, but also a sign of mercy. For through destruction, an opportunity for restoration was born. Through death, life could rise again in a world where the divine order would be restored. And from the vast waters a new promise arose, a promise that no matter how deeply humanity falls, the wellspring of divine mercy shall never run dry. While the earth was submerged in floodwaters to cleanse it from sin, Enoch, the righteous man taken by God, was led on a wondrous journey beyond the mortal realm, a journey through the sacred heavens, where the true structure of the universe was revealed more radiant and more terrifying than anything humanity had ever known. According to the revelations recorded in the Book of Enoch, the universe is not merely an open sky dotted with stars as men once thought. It is a grand edifice with many layers, each heaven a distinct realm operating under the guardianship of angels. In the first heaven, Enoch saw the treasuries of nature, where rain, snow, wind and mist are stored and distributed according to the cycles established at the dawn of creation. In the second heaven he witnessed a deep, dark abyss, where the fallen angels are imprisoned awaiting the day of judgment. Ascending to the third heaven, Enoch saw the Garden of Eden, a place where light and life reign eternally for the righteous souls. Yet he also saw side by side the dark abyss where fallen souls are punished, a bitter reminder of the eternal opposition between light and darkness. The higher he climbed, the more wondrous were the visions he beheld. In the fourth heaven, he saw the operations of the sun, moon, and stars, massive wheels of fire moving in an eternal dance coordinated by angels who oversee time and the seasons. In the seventh heaven, Enoch witnessed millions of angels worshipping God, singing hymns beyond the capacity of human language. And in the 10th heaven, he beheld the glorious throne of the Most High, a radiant source of light so powerful that even the angels had to veil their faces before his absolute majesty. Through Enoch's vision, a staggering truth emerged. The universe is not an empty, indifferent void. It is a living temple where every star, every stream of water, every breath of wind obeys the divine command. The sacred heavens witnessed by Enoch remind us life does not exist by random chance. Every soul, every action, every whispered prayer echoes through the heavens. And every step we take, no matter how small, resonates within the eternal order of the universe. In his journey through the heavens, Enoch not only beheld glory and light. He was also led to the deepest realm of the spiritual cosmos, a place where even the rays of grace could not penetrate, a terrifying abyss known by a soul-shaking name: Tartarus. Tartarus is not like the hell reserved for mortal souls. It was created by God specifically for the fallen angels, the watchers who had broken the divine covenant and unleashed chaos upon the earth. It is a place of eternal imprisonment where betrayal finds no path to redemption. In the Book of Enoch, Tartarus is described as a bottomless pit of thick darkness, where the watchers are chained with bonds that no force can break. Buried in suffocating darkness, they suffer not only physical torment, but the agony of memory, the memory of their fall of the light they had lost by their own hands. Tartarus is not merely a place of punishment. It is a mirror reflecting a painful truth that power, when severed from obedience and loyalty, becomes self-destructive. The watchers, once radiant as the first stars, are now but faint echoes in the abyss, beyond the reach of any prayer to the throne of God. As Enoch was led through Tartarus, he did not merely record a punishment. He recorded a sacred lesson that in the cosmic order, betrayal cannot coexist with light. Betrayal, especially from those beings created to guard holiness, inflicts a wound so deep that it must be sealed forever in darkness. Tartarus is the place where grace ends and justice speaks, a realm without tomorrow, without redemption, where only the silent waiting for the final day of judgment remains, the day when all secrets, all betrayals, all sins shall be brought into the light. And in the heavy silence of Tartarus, Enoch's soul seemed to hear a warning to all who dare to disregard the divine order. No light is bright enough to save the one who has extinguished the light within himself. One of the gravest sins of the Watchers was not merely that they broke the boundary between heaven and earth, but that they gave humanity divine knowledge, secrets that were meant to be kept within the sacred heavens. According to the Book of Enoch, Azazel, one of the chief watchers, taught mankind how to forge weapons, swords, knives, shields, and armor. With hands still young and hearts yet immature in wisdom, humanity suddenly wielded the power to kill one another. From simple tools for survival, the world plunged straight into an age of violence and endless war. But that was only the beginning. Other watchers taught humans the knowledge of sorcery charms and how to manipulate and dominate the wills of others. They opened the door to the secrets of astrology, revealing the movements of stars, the signs of nature and mysteries once sealed in the highest realms. Instead of leading to awe and worship of the Creator through the vast universe, humanity, under the guidance of forbidden knowledge, began seeking to manipulate fate, to control the world, and to grasp powers beyond their limits. Knowledge, when divorced from reverence and wisdom, becomes a double-edged sword. Weapons led to massacre. Magical knowledge led to deception and domination. The understanding of the stars ceased to pursue harmony with the cosmic order, and instead became tools to steal destinies and bend fate to human will. When divine knowledge falls into mortal hands, it loses its sacred essence. It becomes a tool for greed, lust, domination, and self-destruction. And this ultimately was the true reason the earth had to face the great flood. Not just to cleanse the sins of the flesh, but to purge the contamination of the soul, a corruption rooted in the misuse of sacred knowledge. Through this painful story, the Book of Enoch leaves us with a chilling reminder: not all knowledge is a blessing. Not all doors of understanding are meant to be opened. For sometimes what we seek in our greed is the very seed of our own destruction. Amid the fiery visions of fall punishment and destruction, the Book of Enoch does not bring only darkness. It also kindles a quiet light, a prophecy of a Savior of a new age when righteousness will be restored and the wounds of the world will be healed by the merciful hand of God. Enoch was shown the image of one like a son of man, a wondrous figure chosen by God. This one did not come to rule by sword and spear, but to execute justice through mercy and truth. Seated at the right hand of God, he would judge both the living and the dead, overthrow the proud, and lift up the humble in spirit. In Enoch's prophecy, the Messiah stands in total contrast to the fallen Watchers and the violent Nephilim. If the Watchers brought corrupted knowledge into the world, then the Messiah would bring true knowledge, the kind that leads to eternal life, not destruction. He would usher in an era of everlasting justice, where the cries of the oppressed would cease, where darkness would have no place to hide. Nations would be judged, kings would bow down, and those who rebelled against the divine order would be erased from eternal memory. But before that kingdom could be established, there would come a final time, a time of trial, when darkness would rise once more, when hearts would be divided, when truth would be twisted, and when evil would seem to triumph. Only those who kept the light within their souls, only those who persevered in humility and righteousness, would be able to pass through that dark night and step into the new dawn. Enoch's prophecy of the Messiah is not merely a distant promise. It is an urgent call to every generation that hope never dies, even in the darkest times, that justice, though delayed, will ultimately prevail, and that each soul stands before a choice to continue down the path of fall and destruction, or to walk the narrow way leading to eternal life. Within the echoes of these visions, the Book of Enoch leaves humanity not merely a sentence of condemnation, but an open door, the door leading to imperishable salvation. As we trace the ancient remnants left across the greatest civilizations of humanity, a strange coincidence begins to emerge. It seems that those separated by oceans, deserts, and thousands of years of history, the cultures of Sumer Egypt and ancient Greece were all telling the same story, the story of supernatural beings, forbidden knowledge, the fall, and judgment. In the land of Sumer, often regarded as the cradle of civilization, they spoke of the Anunnaki beings who descended from the heavens and intervened in human life, gifting secrets of astronomy, agriculture, and even construction technology. They brought the light of knowledge, but also sowed seeds of discord and pride, a clear mirror image of the Watchers in the Book of Enoch. In ancient Egypt, myths spoke of Thoth, the god of wisdom, who taught humanity the secrets of magic, the stars, and the divine order of the cosmos. Yet Egypt was not without stories of betrayal among the gods, bloody wars, and efforts to restore order after chaos. A familiar rhythm resounds, echoing the story Enoch once told. In Greece, the Titans, giant beings, descendants of heaven and earth, rose up against the new gods of Olympus. After a great war, they were defeated and cast down into Tartarus, the deep abyss reserved for rebellious offenders. Once again we encounter reflections of the Watchers imprisoned, the Nephilim, destroyed in the Great Flood. Is this merely coincidence? Or, hidden beneath the surface of myth, was each civilization striving to preserve the memory of an ancient event, a chapter of history that humanity has tried to forget. If the Book of Enoch truly touches on a profound truth once known by many peoples, then we are not merely reading a religious text. We are piecing together the fragments of a global memory, a memory of a time when heaven and earth were close, and when the first great mistakes left a lasting shadow over the destiny of humankind. For centuries, texts like the Book of Enoch were pushed to the margins of history, labeled as myth, dismissed as baseless legend. Yet, as the sands of time are slowly brushed aside, scattered archaeological findings around the world begin to tell another story, a whispered confirmation that perhaps the ancient visions were not pure fiction. In 1947, in the desolate caves near the Dead Sea, a group of shepherds stumbled upon ancient scrolls. When archaeologists and linguists deciphered them, they found not only ancient copies of the Bible, but also fragments of the Book of Enoch. This discovery not only confirmed the ancient existence of the book, but revealed that it had once been treasured as part of the sacred faith of old. But that was only the beginning. Across the world, from North America to the Middle East, archaeologists have reported strange discoveries: giant human skeletons, architectural traces, inexplicable by the technical knowledge of early civilizations. Though many of these findings have been buried in controversy and excluded from the mainstream narrative, they still quietly pose questions that are not easily dismissed. Indigenous legends from the Americas to Asia all tell of giants, mighty beings who once ruled but were ultimately destroyed in great floods. These tales, scattered and varied, strangely align with the Book of Enoch's account of the Nephilim and the world-purging Great Flood. Majestic structures like the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, and the submerged cities beneath the seas also whisper of a past beyond the reach of current human understanding. Who gave our ancestors knowledge of astronomy, of advanced construction techniques far ahead of their time? Could it have been the forbidden knowledge that the Watchers once delivered? Each archaeological find, each fossilized bone, each ancient legend is like a stone fitting into a larger mosaic, the picture of a world that once was a chapter of history, erased but not wholly lost. And it is these silent echoes from the Earth's depths and the collective memory of humanity that beckon us to dig deeper, to search further, to answer the lingering question: has the truth ever really been forgotten, or is it simply waiting for those courageous enough to listen? As we walk among ancient ruins, lost manuscripts and wind-blown tales from civilizations long gone, a silent question grows ever louder within. Do we truly know our own history? Or are we merely holding on to the scattered fragments of a grander story that was torn apart? History, as we are taught, is often a chain of events rewritten by the victors, those who have the power to choose, erase, and reshape collective memory as they see fit. Through the ages, texts that did not fit the desired mold were sidelined, and stories too complex or too dangerous were buried beneath the dust of time. The Book of Enoch stands as a vivid testament to this. A book once honored, once read among the holiest communities, only to be cast out, labeled apocryphal, and imprisoned in oblivion for over 2,000 years. Along with it, the tales of the Watchers, the Nephilim, the sacred heavens, and the forbidden knowledge faded from collective memory. But have the hidden things truly vanished? Or do they still remain echoing through legend, etched into ancient ruins, whispered within the forgotten fragments of history? Perhaps the ancient pyramids, the cuneiform tablets, the decaying scrolls in caves, are telling us other stories, stories that, if listened to deeply enough, would reveal that human history is not a simple line of progress, but a complex journey of light and darkness, of fall and redemption, of forgetfulness and remembrance. And if the truth still lies hidden behind the veils of history, then each of us, in the quest for truth, becomes a successor to the unfinished work of witnesses like Enoch. Because perhaps the greatest question is not what happened, but rather, do we have the courage to face the truth, even if it changes everything we once believed? We have journeyed far together, a journey through the layers of buried memory, through the ancient secrets that the Book of Enoch brings once again into the light. From the fall of the Watchers, the birth of the Nephilim, to the great flood that cleansed the earth. From the sacred heavens, Enoch beheld to the dark abyss of Tartarus, reserved for rebellious souls. And then, rising above all the ashes of the fall, we encountered the prophecy of the Messiah, the indestructible hope for humanity, the forbidden knowledge, the scattered archaeological fragments, the echoing tales from Sumer, Egypt, and Greece. All these mirror shards reflect the same story. The story of a time when the world was young, when heaven and earth were not yet fully separated, and when the choices of a few altered the fate of all mankind. But throughout this journey, one question resounds deeper and clearer than ever before. If the Book of Enoch truly reveals the deepest origins of who we are, how many more secrets lie buried under the ashes of history? How many truths still rest beneath the earth, in crumbling manuscripts, in forgotten myths, in the eyes of those who gaze up at the stars, no longer remembering why they once knew? We entered this journey not merely to study an ancient book. We embarked to confront the eternal question: who are we? What have we lost along the path to today? And do we have the courage to turn back time, to reopen doors sealed by fear and forgetfulness? The quest continues. The untold truths, the missing pieces, the silent whispers from the depths of eternity still await the one who will hear. Let us continue this journey together. Let your heart remain open to greater questions, deeper reflections. And perhaps, just perhaps, one day you will find not only the answers you seek, but also the lost light within the soul of humanity. Amen.